Right.
high levels of impeded angry responses, high levels of arrogance, high levels of negative contrasting. I didn't put this one in the collection, but if you look at the interviews that she did with Never Back Down, you'll see a lot of stunted responses where she wants to reply almost with the caption, "How dare you? How dare you talk to me that way, insinuate these things?" That sort of virtually Machiavellian response, which you get with those who abuse others, right? There is an egocentrism to it because you become vested in that belief that you have that level of control over somebody else. So I've got just a couple for you. The first one I'm going to show you is from a newsreader that had recently met AH. And if you talk about defamation of character in like of these illnesses, let's call them, you know when you've been around an angry person, a horrible person, a happy person, a joyful person, a not nice person, right? And you don't have to be a people reading specialist to be able to know these kind of things. If you have any sort of a interest in the person that you're speaking to, then this humanistic response is developed through that, right? So let's just look at this as kind of a character review.
No, not at all. Amber Heard was here. You actually interviewed her. How was she?
I did.
I mean, in person. Okay. And now for Downton Abbey, here's our official correspondent, London.
Now, if you look at that, right in at her responses. My mum always taught me this from when I was a young boy. If you've nothing nice to say, then say nothing at all.
Interviewed her. How was she?
I did.
I mean, in person.
I did. There was the I did. Tense
Okay.
jaw,
And now
tense
for
mouth.
Downton Abbey, here's our official correspondent.
Yeah, this is how we keep a lid on something that is deeply felt, whether it be positively or negatively. If we keep a lid on it through not saying anything, it leaks out in more behaviour, right? If you've ever tried to not show that you're excited, you get very jumpy and you get very twitchy and I want to do this, I want to do this. If you ever want to not show that you're sad, you know, you would do things like this and mouth covering and talking and averting gaze and rubbing your eyes, faking yawns to cover up the response. If you don't want to come out with something negative, if you look at every time you've had a point in an argument where it's contrasted what's being discussed, but say for example you want to leave, you want to go and do something else, so your response is to go controlled negative responses, and that's what she's had here. And unless on 6 in the mix or in the mix 6 or whatever it's called, unless they interview her a number of times. This is somebody that's only ever met her for a few minutes. This one is taken from I guess something along the punked lines, but we get to see her response to a perceived stressful situation, right? Now you could argue that this is taken out of context because it's not a real occurrence. But if you look from her responses, she believes it to be a real occurrence, even though it's completely set up, right? That's what is the making of a good prank. You want real reactions, right? That's what gets your views in.
Detective.
Well,
Detective, I'm sorry about this. He gets really starstruck.
We get bullied by that.
I'm sorry. We met Jean-Claude.
Now, you've got to think, right, that in terms of context, this is probably a terrible situation for a celebrity to be in, and probably not the first time it's happened, right? Of the awkward photograph request when you don't really want to do it. They don't owe you a photograph at all, right? They don't owe you their time. They owe you nothing, but they do it whether they have a want to do it out of their kindness, right? They don't owe you that. So you can see her natural response, not the overt finger giving. I don't know how to blur it out in terms of editing, so I'm not going to actually do it. But you know what I'm talking about, flipping the bird. I'm not focusing on that. That's overt. Look at her face. So if I rewind it. Teeth born, jaw clenched, direct attack in terms of facing, on an anthropomorphic level, empty hostility. That's almost disbelief level anger.
I'm sorry. We met Jean-Claude Van Damme one time, and we had to get a restraining order. Officer Douglas, if you're gonna do that, just come over. Let's just get one for the newsletter. Just get one for the newsletter. Put together. Yeah, just one for the newsletter. The sooner we get this done.
What the hell is going on over there?
Just one. Are we in? Smile.
So right, let's take their displays towards each other out of the equation because he's in on it. Let's take his displays towards her out of the equation because he's in on it, right? So what you get from her is a steeped level of egocentrism and an unwillingness to participate. Again, some would argue that it's completely justified given the perceived reality of the situation. Getting a car back, presumably it's been impounded or something like that, but you get to see a real response to this. It's treated reflexively with an outwardly hostile response.
Did you want to tell him?
I don't think we're. Are we ready to tell him?
You're not arresting him.
You know what we should do? We should tell him together. 1, 2, 3. You're on overhauling.
And that look there at the end, that one, that could be under the facial action coding system for the capture response of you guys are dicks, right? There's nothing worse than somebody that has a high level of ego being made to look less, right? If you perceive yourself in a higher status, you don't want that taken away from you. That's a reflexive fear that you have. This next one is from the language, I'm guessing the Netherlands, but it's a guess. Some sort of a talk show. It looks like the kind of talk show that over in the UK would be Loose Women. I think in the States it's called The View, but I'm not 100% sure. Where a bunch of people get around a table and discuss current events, current issues, that type of thing.
You wrote this letter. I mean, your ex-husband is a famous actor, Johnny Depp. Did that affect your career?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's still to this day, you know, is a constant threat to my safety, my family's safety.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. And you know, just like.
Why is him being an actor a threat to your family's safety? There's no, unless, right, we aren't privy to the information that would help that cause and effect element be understood. This is an example of negative contrasting. Playing him down based upon the incendiary topic that's there in order to heighten your perceived status. And the heightening here is along the lines of her as the victim, right? Because immediately, given the sort of stereotypical opinions of this kind of topic, as soon as you say, I have had this happen to me, regardless of truth or lies or not, regardless, so put that all off to the side, right? As soon as you say this has happened, you immediately know there'll be an army of people on your side as a visual representation of your support structure. And at least for her, the level of ego. I like when he says really and she looks away. Can't confirm that on a genuine level. She doesn't look at anyone.
I mean, your ex-husband is a famous actor, Johnny Depp. Did that affect your career?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's still to this day, you know, is a constant threat to my safety, my family's safety.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. And you know, just like.
Yes, of course. You've got a deference nod, but it's an eye-blocking behaviour. Slow blink. No, it's disingenuous. Too many contrasts, and the controlled nature of the hands. Right. If you notice in a lot of her interviews, as soon as her hands start moving, that's when her emotional state starts to leak more and more. The tighter the hands remain, the more whatever training that she's had. And all celebrities and politicians and people in the limelight will go through a certain level of training or guidance, at least in their public displays. The tighter they are, the more she can keep that, right? But if you listen from a from an audio information output, she could just as easily be giving a list of groceries in terms of that being a felt response. So listen to this, but close your eyes.
Did that affect your career?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's still to this day, you know, is a constant threat to my safety, my family's safety.
Seriously?
Yes, of course. And you know, just like anybody who goes.
But Amber, for a lot of people.
And still to this day, I need milk, eggs, bacon, bread. There's no discernible difference between the two. Now, unless she has gone implosively under abuse, and doesn't really feel anything greatly anymore. That would be one point we could argue for that. But that doesn't hold water when you look at the intonation that it's given as well. It's given an intonation of disinterest, in the same way that you were talking about something inanimate. If you've imploded and you can't or don't want to feel anything heightened anymore as a result of the trauma that you've gone through, everything sounds the same. There's no colour because there's no intonation.
The same responsibility to do with that.
Is it also a
what
way
is
to
right.
deal with your personal situation?
It isn't about me. It isn't about me. My job is to...
So that then, that was a moment of retrieval. I have them a lot in terms of when I'm trying to come up with the best word to say. A lot of people would attribute that to forgetting the party line, so to speak, in terms of your argument. But what she has there is a series of buzzwords that she's hit. You constantly hear about people using their privilege for good, people using their privilege to make their egos bigger, people use, you know, it's heard of a lot. If you look at the way that that Imagine video, when the whole lockdown started, was absolutely torn apart because it was a use of privilege that only highlighted how out of reality these people are. Here, that's a party line that's hit.
Have the same responsibility to do with that.
Is it also a
what
way
is
to
right.
deal with your personal situation?
It isn't about me.
To...
It isn't about me. My job is to...
Look at the thumbs going. The thumbs going is a sign of pacifying, of extension in the outer digits, right? It's tension, it's anxiety, and it is also an outwardly mobile sign of the control that she's having with her hands at this moment. Now, again, you could argue that it's because she's talking about something that makes her feel quite anxious, right? But that degree doesn't match with the words that you're saying. So if you're looking to provide a level of congruence and a level of truth, everything has to come across as one. There can be nothing that argues against it. If I was to say something that was completely true, like I'm hungry right now. Now you may even have heard my stomach rumbling on the microphones, but my emotional state matched my words, my degree of intent. Rip that apart in terms of non-verbals if you want, right? From how you're watching the video, but everything was there as one. If I went along the lines of I'm hungry. I want to eat now. My voice doesn't match the intent. So as a natural response to that, you would be thinking things like, oh, well, he might be hungry, but he can wait a while. It's not completely true. This needs to be 100% true for it to be a believable story. And it's not.
Do with that privilege what women without that privilege cannot. Not just with regards to domestic.
Now again, that's an incendiary topic, and I don't personally believe there's a better word than that. That is an incendiary topic to bring up. But she's using those same words again. because there's not a great deal of thought going in and around the point she wants to make, because she's not invested in it in the way she claims to be. If we add that all up, you know, the words, the displays, the tonality, the blocking, the control, it's not matching at all.
Violence. This is a human rights issue. Women's rights are human rights, and with an amplified voice comes an amplified responsibility to do with that what is right, and to speak for people who don't have a voice.
There and actually were all kinds of accusations flying your way when you said all this, and then there was a divorce settlement. You got $7 million. People were saying this is all about the money, but then you did something that twisted that whole argument.
Smile.
What did you do with?
If that was pride, that wouldn't be.
Then
that
there was a
kind of
divorce
control.
settlement. You got $7 million. People were saying this is all about the money, but then you did something that twisted that whole argument. What did you do with that money?
I may have missed that. Let me go back a little bit further. 1 second.
For people who don't have a voice.
There and actually were all kinds of accusations flying your way when you said all this, and then there was a divorce settlement. You got $7 million. People were saying this is
Control.
it's all about the money.
There it is. There's the control in the side. You know that in watching her with her smile, she smiles from both sides. So it's not just a normalistic response for the smile to be that kind of controlled, right? That is what is linked towards elements of hierarchy, ego, right? When you smile at somebody when you think you're better than them, you do it this way. Now, for somebody who's in that level of the public limelight, to get $7 million from a divorce would be nothing. So the smart move is to give it away to quash the arguments.
But then you did.
I had to fix the microphone. If you think about it this way, he's 100% guilty, right? If in this fabrication he is 100% guilty, he can't get to her anymore. So why do you need to keep hammering that safely response, if not to hammer home this please believe me idea, right? This is the party line.
Of one person.
Question though, because as you have said already, this can make situations worse, because like for many women, men are fighting back who have been accused of this, and your ex-husband recently said in a GQ interview in a magazine, this is not true, that this didn't happen.
There's that same response that she did a few times in her deposition footage, in terms of an I'm doing it again, of an eyelid flutter with a head tilt, in terms of that level of control, where she's just experienced either a degree of, well, no, let's not hypothesize the felt state, but it's an increase in pulse rate and internal telemetric responses.
And recently said in a GQ interview in a magazine, this is not true, that this didn't happen. So the fight continues, goes on.
You know, I can't speak about that, and I have no interest in it.
If you look at that again, I can't speak about that. I have no interest in that at all. Again, incongruent behavior, asymmetrical shoulder shrugs, tightened level of control on the hands. You notice the thumbs went down.
I want to do is support women and change the narrative and change myself. I'm not speaking about my relationship. Why would I? I am here to speak on behalf of
because your
a
party
new
line
generation.
is about,
the big problem is that they always
party
confuse.
line is about getting this message across and trying to rally as a rallying cry for those that that you want on your side. Now we could go on. We could go on. You know, there's this. There's a ton of others where all these traits leak out. But if we look at the more recent appearance for as up to date of a timeline as we can possibly get. We have this. Okay. So if we look there, first of all, she's tired. She's tired, emotionally, physically.
I traveled here to the UK to testify as a witness to assist the court. After obtaining a restraining order in 2016 and finalizing my divorce, I just wanted to move on with my life.
Okay, so again, first arguments would be if this is a moment to encourage people to see you as a genuine, truthful person, why are you spending so much time looking at a prepared response? But the army of legal teams that she's probably got behind her will enforce this kind of narrative anyway, but they'll try and carefully prepare the words that are said, how she delivers them. That's the difference. But again, there's no state. I just wanted to move on with my life. I came here to assist the court. Next bullet point.
I did not file this lawsuit, and despite its significance, I would have preferred not to be here in court.
That comes across as true, right? There's a lot of suppression in terms of sadness, right? You could argue because it's gotten this far, but if you look at the controlled displays in terms of her vocal tells, and that doesn't appear to be the case. It appears to be more along the lines of sadness regarding facing this kind of a crowd. The kind of, it's tough enough facing a British crowd when they're on your side, but if they aren't on your side, whoo, Brits don't make it easy by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I always come back to typical sort of British crowd responses. If you look at when David Blaine did his 44 days or something like that in a box over the Thames, there were those there cheering in wonderment, but there were a lot of people there hurling supportive abuse and hamburgers at him. That's the UK. And no, she didn't file the lawsuit. Johnny probably did, because it was libelous against him.
It has been incredibly painful to relive the breakup of my relationship, to have my motives, my truth questioned.
Okay, right. So you would expect one of two things here, right? Incredibly painful. You would expect to see that, or at least a controlled response to that. There would be leaks, either in the voice, or parts of the face, or the language of the body. There is none, right? Or you would expect a certain level. You would expect anger and hostility at her truth being questioned, which we get in a certain element of lip behaviours, but nothing more, right? There's still the wearisome behavioural responses that she's getting that still don't strike anywhere on an emotional Richter scale when compared with the incidents that she's talking about.
and the most traumatic and intimate details of my life with Johnny shared in court and broadcast to the entire world.
There was the voice there, and I was just about to say, I would imagine that truthfully, that must suck. Right? That must suck. For any couple to have your most intimate moments spoken about to however many strangers are in the room and however many millions of strangers have to hear the details as well. That must suck. Which is why we get the elements of truth coming apart from there, which we haven't seen yet. So we also get a good contrast in terms of what it would be like when she displays truthful responses. You see the depression of the lips, the eyebrows, the nostrils, the controlled elements in the cheeks, the vocal tremors, if you will. Let's call it that.
And broadcast to the entire world.
There it is. Control, back, swallow.
I stand by my testimony. And I now place my faith in British justice. Although I did not bring up this lawsuit, I am aware of the precious resources being consumed by his litigation. And I will be glad to see those resources redirected.
That's the divorce charity money angle again, right? You are negatively contrasting the other party, which you could argue is a position that has been taken by a legal team, but either not. It doesn't ring true in terms of the displays. Like if we saw the congruency, like before with her intimate moments being discussed, versus here she would like to see these funds redispersed from his litigation. You see those levels being played with there in order to downplay him so it inexorably upplays her. But through a non-egocentric perspective, I will spread this wealth. It's virtually Robin Hood-esque, or at least attempted to be.
To more important legal matters delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Don't bring COVID into this, love. It's already into everything else. Oh dear.
I appreciate the dedication, the hard work, and support of the defense legal team, as well as my US and UK lawyers. I also wish to extend my thanks to the very diligent and kind court staff and the police, who have been so sensitive in ensuring my safety and my protection.
She has a very specific lip moment before she's about to talk about her safety, right? And that's only from these videos. If she does any more when she talks about it, you can watch for it. If she does this, she's about to talk about safety and her safety and her family's safety.
So that I could testify in safety. And finally, my heart...
Keen to really hammer that angle home, isn't she?
Heartfelt thanks for all of the tremendous and overwhelming outpouring of support that I have received and the many messages from all over the world. You have given me so much strength, and I send it back to you. Thank you.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. This may end up turning into a long one, so I don't know at this stage. I just had the notion of what I wanted to talk to you guys about. So if it does, I'll split it into two. But yeah, this is exactly why I'm in the camp that I am in terms of my opinions, because the definable character traits that you can see based upon the reading of said person, you can find them, in every single video. They're there. This is a character trait that she has. And they aren't there in his. I can only comment my opinion as somebody who analyses behaviour and gets paid to do it. Other than that, that's all the information I have, you know. If these guys wanted to give me some more information, I could find some more details. But who knows? You'll maybe have to tweet the legal team for me, or however it's done nowadays. So yeah, guys, I hope that was of interest to you. If it wasn't, thank you for wasting your time this long, because I don't know how you've made it here without even a marginal bit of interest. And I'd love to hear from you again, regardless of what camp you're in. I'm always up for a dialogue, no matter what the topic. As Sherlock Holmes once cried, "Data, data, data. I cannot make bricks without clay." The more data I have, the more informed my opinion can be. So yeah, if you enjoyed that whole series of events, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, first of all, which is such a great thing for 2020. And you will make me very happy if you do. New podcast episodes are available on Fridays. You can also reach me on Twitter and Instagram as well. But thank you for your time, and thank you for your interest. And I hope to talk to you soon. Stay safe out there, guys. 2020 is nearly over.